What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, yesterday, a pretty big remaster was accidentally leaked out online, and it's one that makes a lot of sense, but also for the fan base, it seems like they're hoping for just a little bit more, but we'll go over all of that here today. Also, we're going to be talking about the Valve payment processor situation because it continues to get worse as we're seeing more and more restrictions being placed on just buying different games there on the marketplace. And we'll also be taking a look at a physical copy that is being reintroduced to the market at a lower price point and maybe even on the cartridge. I know, shocking. It's possible. We'll take a look at it, all that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button, the link in the description down below. And we're starting today with Mafia: The Old Country. Came out last week, and now we're starting to get some estimates around sales, which this we can see was posted. This is over on LinkedIn from Video Game Insights by Sensor Tower, and they went over some stats for Mafia: The Old Country in the first 4 days. We can see units sold at 800,000. The average playtime is almost 9 hours. That game, that's probably through 80% of the game. I'm trying to think how many hours. Yeah, it's probably about right. Positive reviews is almost 73%. They do show that about 48% of sales were on PlayStation, 37% on Steam, and the other 13 to 14% on Xbox. These are estimates. It is important to note. Now, they pull data from all over the place to try to come to we'll say decent estimations within the ballpark anyway. I think 800,000 units, so not necessarily at 1 million, although maybe it is at 1 million, and these are just like rough conservative estimates. But right around there for a game that we already know is more budget sound, or they're at least trying to keep scope within reason to put it out at $50. I feel like that's not incredible, but it's not terrible. It's somewhere in the middle. And this is a game that over time, as it gets discounted, I'm sure will just rack up more and more sales. So when it gets to like the $20 mark, I think it's going to be a much easier buy for many people out there who are even just curious about it. And it'll probably end up going to subscription models and other things. So I think at the end of the day, this will end up being a profitable venture for Hangar 13 and 2K. But I don't know if this is necessarily the start of it to where it's like, oh, okay, we're fully profitable. Now we just kind of coast. Also, it looks like Capcom will be in attendance at New York Comic-Con. This we can see over on their website. Capcom, nice little spot here. There's a one-sentence explanation for their Capcom Presents, a 90-minute panel showcasing all of Capcom's recent and upcoming releases. This will be taking place Friday, October 10th, 3:45 p.m. Main stage. So them being on the main stage caught my eye a little bit. I'm like, hold on, is Capcom showing up there with something really big? Or are they just showing up there with games that are already out that they would like to advertise to a bunch of people, and then games that they've already announced that are coming up? So they already have a bunch of games in 2026. We have Onimusha, we have Resident Evil, a really big one, Pragmata, and Monster Hunter Stories 3 that just recently got announced. So they already have some stuff that they can show off there and just talk about. 90 minutes is quite a while. Maybe some Q&A get thrown in there too. I know, look, it'd be great if they showed up and announced a new Mega Man, but I'm not holding my breath for that at all with Capcom, at least anytime soon. So just go in, I'd say, with lowered expectations. I mean, a lot of people are necessarily just going to hear about this after it happens, but if you're there, yeah, just, I guess, sit in on this Capcom Presents and hope for the best. Oh, and we do have opening night live at Gamescom next week. Of course, the Jeff Keighley event, and it looks like they're starting to make some announcements for what we can expect. This we can see over on his account, where he says, Fallout Season 2 is coming to Gamescom opening night live. Watch the global live stream on Tuesday. That'll be 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific Time. There's the poster with the welcome. Yeah, okay, so they have New Vegas right there. I thought that was supposed to be the big thing at the end of the Season 1, but I guess we're just putting that stuff in the posters. Although, look, that was going to be a big thing if they advertise there. All right, all I know is I talk about the end of Disc 1 on Final Fantasy VII, big deal. They show one of the last big cliffhangers for Season 1 on Fallout, and it's exciting. Anyway, we'll see, I'm sure, a trailer for it and stuff. It'll be good. It's a good show. So I'm interested to see what they do there with New Vegas being tied in for Season 2, and we'll hear more about that next week at Jeff Keighley's Opening Night Live. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with a remaster that was leaked early, and this is coming from Bandai Namco, when they posted what appeared to be like a live stream or premiere that's slated for next week. Seems to be Monday that they're going to have this. And, well, you can see the screenshot for it here. Yeah, it appears to be Tales of Xillia. Now, okay, Tales Xillia, that came out in 2011 in Japan. And then it made its way worldwide to like the West in 2013. It released on the PS3, and this is I would say it's a popular Tales game. There are so many Tales games, and I saw reaction stuff on online, and people were like, what about this Tales game? What about this one and this one? I think Tales of Xillia is one that is, I don't know, not necessarily mainstream, although when it broke onto the scene, all right, when it came out in 2011 in Japan, it immediately sold more than 500,000 copies, like week one in Japan alone on the PlayStation 3. And it did well enough with critics. It didn't always like throw a bunch of 90s or something on Metacritic. It did well enough, right? But I think Bandai Namco views this as a fairly popular and fairly successful Tales game. Like when that remaster was being discussed and going around yesterday, it seemed like most people said, oh yeah, I remember Tales of Xillia, even though it was only ever on the PlayStation 3. All right, so when it went worldwide or to the West in 2013, they ended up shipping more than 1 million units by the end of that year. So this seems like one that is there's no risk, I assume, for Bandai Namco doing something like this. And that stream or that premiere was titled like just news for Tales series. So I assume there's going to be other stuff in there, and just the Xillia remaster is part of their remaster project. They've announced that they're going to be doing several of these, and the one that's stuck on the PS3, or one of the ones stuck on the PS3, would be a good one to target and then bring up to multiple platforms. And I assume it's a PS3 game. They can clean it up, but I feel like they'll have it on the Switch 1, a Switch 2 version. They might do that thing where they release it specifically on the PS4 with PS4 Pro enhancements, and then it's just backwards compatible on the PS5. It really comes down to how many SKUs they want to do. The thing I'll be really curious about is if they have an Xbox Series version of the game. I assume they will, but it wouldn't shock me if they don't, because we've seen this kind of back and forth where it's just sometimes there's not an Xbox version there at all. So I do think this is one that will do well for them, mostly because I don't think the budget is very high for these remaster projects they do, since it's not a full-on remake. It's something where they'll take the base game on the PS3, move it to all these platforms, and up the resolution, hopefully frame rate, whatever else they can do there, and just make it look good on newer TVs and everything. So I'm interested to pick up Tales of Xillia. I have experience with some Tales games, but I'm not as into it as some people are. Some people are all about Tales. They know all the releases. I'm the person who was like, hey, Tales of Arise was pretty fun. And that was it for me. I'm out of there. So again, I'll check this out when they make the announcement. I assume it's something that's also coming out soon. So it could be something they announce and then it's out maybe even before the end of this year. So we'll see, I guess, next week when that live stream airs. But yeah, apparently look forward to, at the minimum, next week for this premiere, Tales of Xillia Remastered. Next up, let's talk a bit about that Valve and Steam situation around payment processors and how some currencies are just being completely removed from PayPal for the platform. Now, this has been a developing story, but yesterday we did get comment from Valve and the spokesperson sort of explaining this after roughly a day of Reddit arguing about what the cause was. Turns out to be what many of us were kind of thinking. First, though, let's start here. We can see this posted. Now, this is over on PC Gamer. I'll have these linked down below in the sources if you want to read further, but they do recount exactly what was happening, saying in early July 2025. This is the message, by the way, that is displayed if you go and try to buy something on Valve with PayPal with a currency that's no longer supported. PayPal notified Valve that their requiring bank for payment transactions in certain currencies was immediately terminating the processing of any transactions related to Steam. This affects Steam purchases using PayPal in currencies other than, and you can see we have the euro, the Canadian dollar, the pound, yen, Australian dollars, and just US dollars. The message states, we hope to offer PayPal as an option for these currencies in the future, but the timeline is uncertain. We are also evaluating adding additional payment methods on Steam for the customers affected by this. In the meantime, please use one of our other current payment methods during checkout. If you can't use any of the available options, you can consider using a Steam wallet code to add funds to your account. Now, the thing with this is all the major currencies that were listed are still effective. Like, you can still use them. So there are many people who will be affected by this, yes, in different parts of the world, but I'm sure the vast majority of people who are online discussing this are probably not affected because they use one of the still supported currencies. Nonetheless, this is something that has, of course, spurred conversation as to Why is this happening? Because we keep hearing about this whole collective shout, and then Visa and MasterCard having Steam delist games, and then itch.io has to like emergency start to just delist and get rid of games quickly out of almost overnight. So everyone kind of tracing back to that. It's like, okay, that's probably what's happening. But it wasn't until we did get this response from a Valve spokesperson that we had confirmation, which we can see this. Now, this was gathered by Rock, Paper, Shotgun, where they said they have confirmed to RPS that this withdrawal of support for Steam transactions by one of PayPal's acquiring banks is regarding content on Steam related to what we've previously commented on surrounding MasterCard. In this case, one of PayPal's acquiring banks decided to stop processing any Steam transactions, which cut off PayPal on Steam for a number of currencies. Wow. Okay, so previously commented on surrounding MasterCard, you then go, okay, it had to do with some of the more adult-themed games, some of the serious adult games that were being pointed out by Visa, MasterCard from Collective Shout, and I still think other organizations will get involved because this is clearly a weak point that they can leverage here. So with different currencies and some of these banks that they're attached to now denying service to Valve, it all stems back once again to just payment processing, and that is the big weak point. Now, Valve mentions, oh, just use a Steam wallet code. Sure, but you kind of see where they're very vulnerable and susceptible, and it all comes back to just this agenda that can be pushed around Valve, and then it comes back to them. And there's not a great way for them to avoid it because, well, they're mentioning banks in different countries, they'll be cutting it off, but we're still talking about Visa and MasterCard. Now here comes this issue, and it's all just kind of building up. And as we mentioned before, it starts small. It's like this small little snowball, and then you just kind of roll it down the hill, gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then all of a sudden it's out of control. And I don't know if we're to the out of control stage yet, but man, it feels like it's getting there. So this is something certainly to keep an eye on, at least be aware of. At this time, we listed the major currencies here that are still supported. I think if any of those all of a sudden go out, then it's going to really erupt online. So we'll keep an eye on that. But for now, yeah, keep an eye on Valve because they're certainly going through it currently, just being able to run transactions on their own platform and try to keep it as open as possible, certainly within the bounds of the law. Next up, let's talk about an interesting situation around the physical release for a Switch game, specifically that Grand Theft Auto Trilogy, the definitive edition, and the box art has like the blue banner on it because you only get one of the games on the cartridge. You have to download the others, but now all of a sudden there's a new SKU and a new box art, and it's missing that completely, which has led people to believe that maybe Rockstar and Take-Two put everything on a cartridge. The only thing that was throwing me off is, okay, with this re-release, it's now down to $30. I've seen this before, by the way, and we'll come back to that in a moment, but we do have a lot of people questioning and asking if are we there? Is this just going to be a full cartridge I can buy, and then I just have everything there on the game that I bought? Well, we can see this is posted. This is by VGP, or Video Game Plus, saying VGP will be offering the newly re-released GTA The Trilogy Definitive Edition for Switch, expecting to stock soon at $30. However, we have not yet been able to confirm through the publisher whether all the games are included on the cartridge. The UPC has been altered as Rockstar is now publishing this title independently rather than through Nintendo. We're hoping that Amazon didn't update the box art listing without recognizing that a download is still necessary. So I will tell you right now, don't buy this yet. Wait for somebody to say what it is. Specifically, it seems like VGP will be keeping everyone up to date on this, but over on Go Nintendo, they say a listing for the game has also popped up in Europe, but the version shows the physical release as being code in box. That is exactly what I'm expecting here, by the way. The drop in price, to me, is what gave it away. If it was still $50 or $60 or something, and that blue banner disappeared and it was being reissued, I would have legitimate thoughts of, wow, wait, that might be a new cartridge with everything on it, all the games. But I've seen the prices drop for some games, like one great example, Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battles. Have you seen that on, go to Walmart or Best Buy or wherever? There is a cheap version of that right now. It's like $15 physical, but look on the front. It's a blue banner because it's a code in the box now. Yeah, it wasn't before, now it is. I think that's what we're seeing here with GTA. Rockstar Take-Two, they're working backwards, make it cheaper, but also don't put a cartridge in there. It's going to be a code in the box. That'd be my assumption. So I would hold off until Either somebody buys it just out of curiosity and they post what it is exactly, or VGP gets their shipment in, they open it up and they see a blue banner on there and realize that Amazon didn't update the box art. So that is what my expectation is for now, but I guess we'll see here in a few days when this thing starts hitting store shelves and people can find out for themselves. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Gamescom and Microsoft. They are going to have a pretty big showing there. They have new hardware and a bunch of games to show off, but they're going to be doing a live stream for 2 separate days while they're going through all of this. And now we have an entire catalog of games that will be present during those live streams, which we can see this posted. This is over on Pure Xbox. However, Microsoft did release this little infographic here, just highlighting and listing everything that they'll have. So Wednesday, August 20th, and then Thursday, August 21st, you'll be able to tune in on YouTube, Twitch, they have TikTok and Facebook also available here. And during their broadcast, starting on August 20th, that's Wednesday, they'll have that ROG Xbox Ally, which I would expect price and release date on that. The Flight Simulator, Dying Light, The Beast, Keeper, World of Warcraft, Call of Duty Black Ops 7, Grounded 2, Hotel Barcelona, Invincible vs. Chronos, Final Fantasy 7 Remake Intergrade, Outbound, Power Wash Simulator 2, Starzan Island, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, The Order of the Giants. Then moving Thursday, August 21st, Ninja Gaiden 4, At Fate's End, Onimusha, that'll be cool to see that maybe playable there as they go through it, Age of Empires 4, Overwatch 2, High on Life 2, The Outer Worlds 2, Jurassic World Evolution 3, Fragpunk, Mistfall Hunter, Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, maybe they have an announcement there for one of the, maybe another game on the collection, Final Fantasy Tactics, The Evil East Chronicles, My Hero Academia All's Justice, Silent Hill F, Lego Voyagers, and Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, which that'll be a week before launch, so that'd be cool to see kind of almost a last showing there for Metal Gear Solid Delta before it releases. But it does look like Microsoft has quite a packed a couple of days there for their broadcast, and I'll be tuning in, seeing what they have. But it seems like a situation where it's going to be probably, I mean, it feels like 8 to 10 hours of just overall content, so I'll work through and try to get some of the highlights that happen there and keep you guys up to date during the week. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, if you had to buy PC games outside of Steam, which one would you most likely use? GOG was number 1 by quite a margin. 66% total voted for it. And I saw some people in the comments say, yeah, at times I use GOG instead of Steam because it is DRM free. You can't escape DRM on Steam, right? So GOG does at least give you that option. And now that they're doing where they're going back and getting older titles that at times never even released on PC and moving them up to be more modernized with current OSs and controls and even achievements, cloud saves, the whole thing. Yeah, it does make that very enticing, so I get that. Epic Game Store, though, was number 2, and I wonder how many people have just built libraries there off of free games, and you just have them, so it's like, there's my second library. And then the Microsoft Store is 12%, which is funny because that comes built in with every Windows PC, and people still really don't use it much. And then just others, 5%. So, I mean, GOG, I get it. I go on GOG here and there whenever there are sales and we'll pick stuff out. And sometimes I include them here in Newswave because it's hard to pass up a classic title. Like we had Fear that one time where it was $1. It's like, yeah, I should probably tell people about an awesome game that's literally $1. Like it's hard to not want to talk about something like that. So yeah, I'll keep an eye out on GOG deals though if you guys like them and at least show any that are really, really interesting like that. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Noel says, I think if the option to use regular controls, maybe I would have to try it, but to me it's just too much and should be $10 or $5. That's talking about Drag X Drive. I will tell you this, if the control scheme was completely removed from Drag X Drive, the game would have nothing. That is like everything for the game, is the idea of using really to a mouse in each hand, Joy-Cons turned sideways, and using that to move the wheelchair around and play basketball. Like that is all of it. If it wasn't for that, I don't even know. The game probably wouldn't exist. It probably wouldn't have made it out of like the basic planning phase because it clearly exists on the platform to show off those controls. I have seen some people say, hey, you know what? I can't use the mouse controls for Drag X Drive. It just doesn't work for me in terms of like accessibility and stuff. So if they added that feature to just use a Pro controller or use the Joy-Cons and the grip, then I might be interested in it. But at that point, Nintendo is a stubborn company that's like, no, you have to play it this way. But also that's pretty much 90% of the game is trying to navigate your wheelchair around and then throw the ball through the hoop while apparently jumping off of the half pipe and doing these spins here and there. I tried it once and I was like, all right. That was cool, I guess. What's next? If Nintendo wants any advice, though, for Drag X Drive, if you get maybe the NBA Jam announcers on board and they're just really over the top while you're wheeling around and slowly throwing the ball up in the air, maybe it catches on fire, that could make it at least somewhat more exciting. It would certainly add some personality to the game, which currently it has 0. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here on a card. Or maybe you want to find out what happens when you just put a bunch of magnets on different game key cards that Nintendo said not to do. Yeah, I did that in a video too, and I'll leave it right below it. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.